time to wait for you to enter numbers. So if you just call up and you don't type anything in, we can actually tell Asterisk, well, it's timed out. Let's go ahead and pass on a different piece of information. Say, for example, you wanted to make sure that no matter what, you'd get somebody transferred into an operator to record them. You can actually build all kinds of timeouts. If they don't enter in the credit card information correctly, you can immediately transfer them to an operator. Again, much like you do in a real PBX system, you can actually do an Asterisk. Here's our waiting 2 seconds. This is to make sure that the line has actually come up. To do all these sets beforehand, they happen extraordinarily quickly. We really want to make sure that the line comes up. That's a number in general you'll want to tweak. For me, 2 worked best. You can probably get it down to 1, but you'll start getting some weird things. When I broke it up in that last slide where we were talking about Audacity and changing all the WAV files, I saved each of these WAV files to something called well-2-ccc-services. That was something that I'd easily be able to remember. So we're going to read in a variable called cc right here. We're going to play the file well2cc services, and we're going to ask for, and we're asking for 16 digits. And again, if we were just going to play the file to them and wait, that's not realistic. Most callers know that you should start typing numbers the minute they hit. And by doing this, Asterisk actually knows how to do that. If you started typing before the audio took place, like in our example, when I hit menu option number 1 really quickly, it immediately went ahead and transferred us. That's what we're doing here. It'll transfer you. It's waiting for 16 digits. If you enter in 15, it's going to keep waiting until it times out, our timeout variable here. But it's looking for 16 digits. We're going to wait a second just to make sure that as you type each of the digits and you hear the beep on your phone, that you'll be able to hear the next message, and that's zip code, sorry. Our variable is zip, that's what we're storing it in, and our sound file is called zip code, and we're looking for 5 digits. Again, add to your creativity, you can really do anything you want here. You create a sound file, you create a variable, you're asking for a certain number of digits. Again, we're going to wait a second. We want to make sure that everything is calmed down with the DTMF or whatever you're doing. And we're going to read in credit card menu. Again, this could be bizarre, anything you want. The voice file, CC menu, and the number of characters we're looking for is 1 character. No matter what you hit, we're going to send you somewhere. If you install TrixBox, it comes with SuperCaller ID, which is a really cool application in general if you're not doing anything with Asterisk and you just want to look up phone numbers instantaneously. It goes to Google, Anyhoo.com, as well as bellsmind.net if you've ever been to Bell's Mind. They have a area code and exchange lookup. So not only are you going to get the information back on what comes out of their caller ID information, the name, you're going to be able to look that name up, get their address, and you can also find out if it's a cell phone where you're not going to get the name and address, you'll find out the cell phone provider and possibly where they are in the country. This is where we're going to store all that information. The next line here, we're going to echo. Again, real simple stuff if you're probably for anybody, but for a Unix guy, we're going to put our zip code into the file, put all of that information into our file and store it into credit card-info. And that variable right here, our file name is actually going to be the credit card number that was entered in. So if we're going through and we're trying to find something, they're all going to be stored by the credit card number. We're going to play them back a little message that says, please wait to connect call. Very standard when you hit menu option. The only thing that could be confusing is if they're looking for balance information, they're really expecting the bank never to want to transfer them to a real operator. It might be a surprise that they're going to get an operator in this example so quickly. This should look familiar. This next line, the monitor line, we're going to store it as a WAV file. We're going to store it. The name of the WAV file will be the credit card number you entered. And then we're going to go ahead and forward it to one of the phone numbers we found on the international numbers we found on the back of the credit card. Let's take a look at building the menu. Again, we're going back to our Asterisk TrixBox application. We go to inbound routes, and we create a route for our 800 number. The DID number, 800-927-7416. And down here at the bottom, we created a custom application, custom-fish. S is to start with number 1, or it's actually like a generic variable. And we're going to start with the first line. You can actually jump in and start anywhere you want in a menu. So let's look at what happens when we actually make the call. And this might as well have been the call that I did when we did it, but just because I didn't want any of our examples to fail, I wanted to make sure we had all of these presets, so I wasn't looking at it in. These first couple lines are just going through the standard We have a strange call. I wonder where we send it. We're going to send it to custom fish, S1. We just saw that. Executing our custom fish, we answer the call. We're setting our timeout digit to 4. We're setting our response timeout digit to 30 seconds. And we are going to send, we're waiting 2 seconds. Then we are going to send welcome to credit card services, and we're going to accept a maximum of 16 digits. And we go ahead and play that sound file back to the user. So that user gets played the sound file, you hear it. Then the user enters. Shockingly, when I did the example, I didn't even enter in a fake credit card number. I entered in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc., 16 digits. And if you do the example and really call the 800 number, I'd highly recommend you enter in fake digits. We're going to wait a second. We're going to then go ahead and read our variables for zip code. Again, zip is the variable, zip code is the sound file. We're going to look for 5 digits, accepting a maximum of 5 digits, and we go ahead and play that sound file back to them. The user entered 54321. Shocking that they didn't enter in a real zip code, although I'd bet that 54321 is a real zip code for somewhere. We're going to wait 1 more second, and we're going to go ahead and execute our read command for the credit card menu, only looking for 1 variable, accepting maximum of 1 digits. We play it. The user entered 2. In this case, we actually skipped over an entire menu tree. If you're really doing this in real life and you wanted to provide a wealth of services to your caller, you'd say, well, the user entered 2, let's go and move them over to this application. In this case, I didn't care what the user entered. Every single option there was going to send them to an operator. I'm sure it was shocking for the end user. Oh my God, I got an operator, this is great. I talked to them. In this case, we're logging all this information, the credit card number, the zip code, and then we go ahead and look at, it's going to start recording that, and we're recording the call, we accept the call continues, and then we finish up the call, and again, at the very end, we merge the 2 sound files back together so we get a unified sound file. It's actually nice here at the end, with all the debug information, you get the caller ID information back in this one spot. The 2 parties we used to make the call, in this case Sixtel and VoIPjet, we monitored it. That was the monitoring. This is the time that the calls actually took place. In this case, it was back in June when I was making the PowerPoint presentation. We answered the call, and we took down some documentation. So let's talk about what you can do further. This is obviously a very standard example that I created. I don't check for what it's called LUN, L-H-U-N, which checks to see if the credit card number is actually a valid credit card number. I don't do that. You could do that. It would, I don't know if that's something that phishing people would want to do, but it's definitely an option. The power of Asterisk allows you to build anything in Perl, JavaScript, Java, a whole bunch of other applications. So if you know how to code it, you can go ahead and build any type of application. Using the caller ID information, you can actually call the user back to confirm their change. This is kind of the reverse of calling the user and giving them an 800 number to call. If they're dumb enough to call into the system, you can call them back, say, in the afternoon to say, we got your information, your call has been processed, thank you for calling. Kind of gives them the encouragement that they've done something right when in fact they've done something quite wrong. The outbound call, to have the user call you back at the 800 number, we've seen this a lot. There was actually a telecom company in the news last week where they were getting a ton of people calling out to customers asking them to provide information about their company account. So this is definitely, what I've kind of explained here is kind of the base. And from here we're going to see a variety of techniques and creativity. And again, as fast as these will come out and people get used to them, I'm sure people will create new and interesting ways to get around it. You know, I think that we tend to focus on banking industry when we talk about phishing. Obviously, that's a place where a lot of the money is located. But at the same time, when you talk about a new and different type of platform, we feel that there's definitely some high-risk applications here outside of the general banking system. Credit cards and banking are the number one that we'll see in this area. But we also think the student loan systems, corporate help desks, and utilities with power cable and phone. Most of the utility industry is not incredibly internet savvy. You don't have, the online bill pays you get with a power company are usually through a third-party provider. It would probably shock somebody to get an email that says, come to this website and give us information about your utility. But they are heavily into IVR. So to see a utility on here is actually probably going to be more likely going down the path than, say, a banking application. these definitely are going to be out-of-the-box techniques. So the important part here, preventing PBX phishing. We came up with a couple ideas, and I can't take credit for all of these. A lot of people came into determining what the options were to help preventing PBX phishing. First and foremost is developing a process to deal with a rogue 800 number when you find it. Shutting 800 numbers down, if you're not familiar with it, it could be a foreign process to you, trying to get a hold of your carrier, who will then have to go to another carrier to prove that there's something fraudulent going on. If you are in the United States, you have a relationship with the United States Secret Service and their Electronic Crimes Task Force. That's actually a good resource, as well as the FBI InfraGard. I'm sure there are a number of others out there in the US as well as all around the world. They can be a valuable resource in getting this pushed through. It's not going to be likely that you can just call somebody up like we do these days with websites and have them taken down very quickly. We'll get to that stage, but we're really nowhere near there today. The other interesting thing that a lot of people wouldn't do in the web world that you'd consider doing in the telephone world is actually telling the user, redirect that 800 number to your voicemail and tell them they're an idiot. You know, the number you've called is actually a scam. You really should think about that and not call 800 numbers that are presented to you in emails. You know, we talk a lot about, this is all social engineering. The only way that this works is because social engineering is still effective in the United States. And we haven't done a very good job in getting people to change their habits as far as the web goes. And I attribute a lot of that to because the web is still new if you look at the broad spectrum of the past 100 years of telecommunications. This may well be a very poor way to get information from people. This is still relatively new. It may turn out that people are smart enough to understand not to be calling these 800 numbers. It's possible, but we really need to do something to actually point out to people that they've called the wrong number. I don't know if you've heard this statistic. If you go to Netcraft, they have a toolbar. I believe it's now just included in Firefox, where it'll tell you that you are at a phishing site. Beware, don't enter your information here. They did some research, and it turns out that people still entered their information in there, even after being warned that it was possibly fraudulent. They said, you know what, I'd rather give them my information so that they could stop the fraud, and it was worth doing it. And in fact, they went ahead and entered their information through a phishing scam. So I actually think that this could be a really good idea. You call up the 800 number, and it tells you pretty plain and simply, you're an idiot. Recommend users only call the 800 number on the back of their card. It is amazing to me how many 800 numbers my bank has and every bank has, whether it's because you're calling them to respond to an ad or to a specific product or to a million other things. And one of the things that I think we will see is when an 800 number gets sent out in an email, and that email gets forwarded to information security, corporate communications, maybe even to the call center, it may take them a long time to track down if they even own that 800 number or if in fact this is a scam. So first, I would recommend that banks slim down the number of 800 numbers that they use and recommend that users only call 800 numbers on the back of their card, the ones that are provided in their billing information. They should also have an inventory of all their phone numbers. If one of these incidences come up, they'd better be able to very quickly be able to identify if it's theirs and if it's not. On the reverse, I'm sure that we were joking the other day, that a lot of real banks do such a bad job that it looks like it could be a phishing scam. So that gets forwarded to the corporate communications department. They go ahead and turn off a real 800 number of theirs because it actually looked like it could be a phishing scam. Warn users today. I was actually surprised, and again, I'm not bashing Santa Barbara.